I think a blue water cruiser has to be a destination in itself. That DNA sort of prevails.
We're grounding each design by that requirement to have a boat that really takes care of you on board, that is ready to cross oceans.
If you want to go transoceanic, all you've got to do is go to the supermarket. Our story with Oyster started, I think it was about maybe late 94, 95, so it's a bit over 30 years now almost. The brief was, pursue the Oyster DNA, the deck saloon and all the rest of it, and blue water cruising, which it's always been really, and, good, safe, durable boats capable of pretty well anything really.
I joined the business in 2006. Really over the years it's been moving into all our sort of mainstream projects, and I've been heavily involved with Oyster certainly since the 885 was really the first project that I kind of came fully into the Oyster fold on, and then every project since. Key design attributes for a blue water cruiser: safety and sea kindliness. We need a yacht that looks after the crew and generous stability, balance, control, and forgiveness in any kind of sea state. Comfort emotions, again, a key attribute. Whatever the sea state, we need the boat to be comfortable to be on board, and largely that's down to the displacement and hull shape related. Performance, we want a design that can achieve fast and steady passage-making speeds on all points of sail, and then ready to go. A blue water cruiser should be ready to leave the dock and embark on an ocean crossing, short of provisioning at the local supermarket. And of course, access to shallow cruising grounds. We're talking about moderate to shallow draft keels, and again, provenance, I think, a key part to know that the design behaves and performs. I think our combined experience with Oyster, it's over 30 years, and all the feedback Oyster have had on through after sales and all the events that are running, the World Rally, and of course our experience beyond Oyster really helped to kind of deliver that provenance in what an Oyster is and its characteristics and how it performs.
I think a blue water cruiser has to be a destination in itself. It's got to be a boat that's nice to be on. And it's not just a case of getting from A to B as fast as you can because you want to get off the boat. Richard Matthews used to say you can always tell an Oyster because the owners live on board when they're at Anchorage or whatever, whereas some of the other brands that we're often compared with, the owners are usually in a hotel ashore.
So some of the kind of key features of a blue water cruiser, we start with moderate to heavy displacement. We're talking about robust structure, high quality fit out, and all the systems redundancy you have on board with such a design. Large tank capacities and high load carrying capability, just to allow you to carry the liquid stores, provisions and equipment that you need for long range self-sufficient cruising, and also a high ballast ratio. But essentially it's this moderate to heavy displacement that really works for you as well in a seaway and helps promote sort of much more comfortable motions and a more tolerant design in waves. Other key features, we've got a plumb bow on all the more recent Oyster designs, and really that helps us just to extend the waterline forward, so we have this extended sailing length for any given hull length, and that's a key performance driver in terms of speed potential. But it also helps us create a narrower entry angle, so when the boat's going into waves, you end up sort of slicing through them more with this narrower entry angle. With those water lines extended forward, we also have a kind of a softer motions in pitch and when you're pitching into waves. So when we look at the forebody, we're always working to try and develop these quite soft U sections that again just give us the ability for soft re-entry across a wide range of heel angles in waves, and we're just looking for shapes that allow these sort of soft re-entry, and again that helps to minimize motions and lead to a much more comfortable motion in any kind of seaway. Moderate to high freeboard, again that helps to just deliver more reserve buoyancy up forward, and also, you know, helps with keeping decks drier and safer in heavy seas. Fairly moderate beam, which helps to increase our interior volume and helps to deliver more form stability for the hull, but it's also a case of just balancing that. Too excessive, it can lead to more uncomfortable motions. So again, it's about finding the right kind of compromises there. And then, of course, you know, moderate to shallow draft keel, which for any blue water cruiser is such a key feature to access the kind of shallow water cruising grounds. A lot of the work we've done over the years is just on refining that geometry and the keel design, and trying to, you know, create a low vertical center of gravity for the keel package, but at the same time maximising the lifting efficiency for good upwind and close haul performance with such a shallow draft keel.
I mean, the balance aspect of a boat is, for me, a boat is an animate object. It definitely feeds back to you. You know, if you're steering a boat, you know whether this boat is a nice gentle being or whether it's really cranky and you've got to really work at it, and it can be quite exhausting, and there are boats like that for sure. And it's the relationship of the, you know, the rig position, the rig type, the keel position, rudder configuration and type and position, and all of these things are evolved. You know, we change a little bit as we learn, but we're working within a sort of a known sphere, as it were.
A big change that we brought in with the 885, the twin rudders, they give you a lot of control at high heel angles, which you just wouldn't get with a single centerline rudder, and you just all that added grip and control. And, you know, there's some, you know, good knock-on effects really. Again, it allows the crew to manage a building breeze more comfortably, and you remain in control even when overpowered, better than you would with a single centerline rudder. You know, no chance really of rudders stalling and getting into a sort of broaching situation. So again, it's all down to that ethos of just having a boat that really, you know, looks after you on board. And, you know, we've all been there caught out with a quickly building breeze and just the ability to maintain control while you reef and things, and just gives you a bit more margin in those sort of situations.
And we set up this model with a conventional, traditional Oyster rudder. Second one was with a spade rudder, which is a rudder, single rudder on centerline without the skeg. And then we set it up with twin rudders. And the twin rudders, it was only about 2 degrees. They were that good because as the boat heels, you get more immersion of the leeward rudder. So the leeward rudder is almost like a boat's going on rails. You know, the more you heel, the more efficient your tracking is. And that commodity, that balance, means less helm load. Very often with a twin rudder boat, you're just fingertip sailing like this on the wheel. It's a joy, you know, for anybody really. But also it unloads your self-steering gear, so you have more reliable autopilot, basically, from a sailing perspective.
Key Oyster signature deck features are things like the center cockpit, which obviously provides, you know, an extremely safe and protected area with all control lines led aft, and now with these non-overlapping headsails, you know, no danger of flailing sheets, so a really nice, safe and protected area. The helm position, again, a key thing, is just that offers excellent all-round visibility and a really commanding position. All models, you know, have a very clutter-free flush foredeck, so again, just, you know, when you're up there deploying or retrieving downwind sails or setting up an inner forestay with a heavy weather staysail or storm jib, you know, you've got nice, clear working deck, you know, minimal chance of snagging and things like that. Halyard controls are at the mast base, so again, a kind of key feature for ease of shore-handed operation. Integrated bowsprit and anchoring, which you know, provides effortless anchoring on all the models, whether operated from forward, and I think again is an option. It can be operated from the helm console on some of the models.
The evolutions we've seen in our time really is to try to get the integration of the spaces working well. So you've got the center cockpit, nice and safe in the middle of the boat where there's motion is least, because the boat's pivoting around the middle essentially. Eventually twin wheels happened before twin rudders, and you start to get an access potential aft. So as the boat's got a little bigger as well, you have a flow through from that centre cockpit to the aft end of the boat, and that's a fabulous viewing area really, and the corner seating and stuff. And then on the bigger boats where we've got the tender wells in the foredeck, that can be another cockpit, and very often is. And I remember doing some sketches for Eddie Jordan for Lush, who was the owner of the first 885, showing it with the cushions and stuff and the bimini over the top. And then Richard Adida, when he started sailing with Eddie and eventually bought Lush, for him that's the Zen room, but all these social spaces, you might not think they're important in a transoceanic cruising yacht, but they are, because having those spaces, it gives you like a flexibility which in some boats you don't have.
So on the interior side, a few key characteristics. You'll notice owner's stateroom is always positioned aft on an Oyster. That really is a way of always putting the owner in the most comfortable part on the yacht. In a seaway, you always want to be located sort of near to the centre of gravity and centre of flotation, and that's certainly one of the key features. And of course, the Oyster signature seascape windows and raised deck saloon and wraparound glazing, again, just help to give that real sense of connection with the sea and the outside world, and whether that's from a just an enjoyment perspective, but also when you are passage making, to have that connection with what's going on outside when you're below deck is again a really good safety feature.
We've now done, I think it's 21 core models. The result now is that over 140 Oysters have circumnavigated. Of those, I think over 100 are our ones as opposed to the previous designs, but mainly by Holman and Pye. And then if you add on our earlier circumnavigations and circumnavigations by other boats we've designed, we've probably got a list of about 140 circumnavigations. So there's a huge combined experience between ourselves and Oyster, and it's fantastic. In a lot of feedback is represented by that. Doesn't half help the breed, as it were, and I would say it's fairly unique. I can't think of any other brand or combination of builder designer that fulfills that sort of CV, as it were. I think that's why Oyster has such a clear sort of sense of being and place, where it has to be in the world of sailing.
Each new model, we're looking for evolution, not revolution, and essentially each new model is a collaboration between Oyster's in-house team and ourselves, and bringing all the outside influences that we have from working on lots of projects outside of Oyster, but also bringing in Oyster's huge in-depth knowledge of the product and access to all the owners and through after sales. And where we have made step changes, we have always backed it up with quite thorough R&D, and ultimately it's those R&D projects that then inform future generations of that design. I think for any Oyster owner or anyone looking to come into the Oyster family, that should give some good confidence to what these boats are capable of, and essentially that is, they are designed for long distance self-sufficient cruising, and they are ready, short of provisioning, and for an extended voyage you are ready to set sail on some pretty epic voyages.